Hello, students. Welcome to our history series. In this series, we will discuss about the Ashoka, the third ruler of Mauryan Empire, who was also known as Devanagari and Priyadarshini. Ashoka is the important ruler of Mauryan Empire as well as for any competitive exams because he started the first ruler who started forming edict in India. So let's discuss about Ashoka. In this section, first we will discuss about the source of Ashoka's information, the political life of Ashoka, how he became ruler because his father wants that his elder brother will become ruler. His father did not want to make Ashoka the next ruler or next throne or next king. So how Ashoka became ruler, who helped Ashokas to become ruler, what are the sources, who explain about the information related to Ashoka. The third Buddhism Council was also conducted during the time of Ashoka. So let's start with the topic Ashoka, also known as Devanagari and Priyadarshini. Devanagari, the lover of basically Devas, basically. So some edicts of Ashoka explain about that he was Devanam. The name of Ashoka was also Devanagari and Priyadarshini. There are some sources who explain about the information related to Ashoka. The first is inscriptions. Ashoka left behind numerous inscriptions on pillars, rocks, and caves through his empire, known as the Edicts of Ashoka. As I told you, he was the founder or first person who started writing edicts. These inscriptions provide valuable information about his reason, his qualities, and his beliefs. The first source of information of Ashoka is inscription. The second source is Buddhism text. As we all know, literally after Kalinga War, Ashoka adopted Buddhism. So Buddhism source also explain about the Ashoka. So Buddhism texts such as Ashok Vadhana, the Mahavamsa was Sri Lankan text. There are two books known as Devapamsa and Mahavamsa who also explain that Ashoka killed his 99 brothers. Then after killing his 99 brothers, he became ruler. So Ashoka Vadhana and Mahavamsa contain account of Ashoka life and reason. These texts often highlight his conversion to Buddhism because these are the Buddhism sources and his effects to spread the religion. So Ashoka's edicts explain about the life of Ashoka. Also the Buddhism literatures like Mahavamsa, Devavamsa, Ashoka Vadhana also explain the life of Ashoka's and efforts to spread the Buddhism religion. Some Greek and Roman sources because there are lots of ambassadors or travelers who visited during the time of Ashoka, as well as Ashoka's grandmother was related to Greek, Helena, the Chandragupta Maurya's wife. So, ancient Greek and Roman writers such as Megasthenes, Pliny, and Elder and Strabo wrote about Ashoka and Mauryan Empire, providing some external perspective on his rule. Also, some archaeological discoveries explain about the empire of Ashoka, archaeological excavations and discoveries, including artifacts, including structures associated with Mauryan period, contribute to our understanding of Ashoka region and extent of the Mauryan empire. Clear? These are the source of information of Ashoka. Also, there are some edicts, like there are Maski edicts which is in Karnataka, who explain about the name of Ashoka as Ashoka. The Sarnath Pillar Edict explain about the name of Ashoka as Ashoka or Devanagari or Priyadarshini. So Devanagari and Priyadarshini name are explained in the Sarnath Pillar Edict. There is also a Gurjara Pillar Edict who was named Ashoka as a Ashok Vardhan or Raja Raj. With some other sources who explain the name, the source of information of Ashoka's art. Maski Edict in Karnataka, the Gujra Edict is in uh, basically Madhya Pradesh. The Sarnath Edict also explain about the name of Ashoka. Next, the major event of Ashoka's life. Basically, Ashoka was born in 305 BC in Patliputra. He was born in 305 BC in Patliputra. His father was Bindusar and his mother was Subhadrangi. He was very ugly according to the source. So basically, Bindusar don't want Ashoka to be the next ruler. Some sources says that his younger brother Sushil was the ruler before Ashoka. Ashoka killed his brother according to Divapamsa and Mahavamsa, the Sri Lankan Buddhism text, and became the next ruler. So around 268 BC, he became the next ruler and till ruled till 232 BC. So Ashoka was very powerful. He had a great military. There was a contemporary empire known as Kalinga, and the ruler of Kalinga that time was Nandiraj. Present day Odisha was known as Kalinga. So Kalinga was also very powerful. So let's understand this with this map. This is India. The complete North India till Afghanistan was captured by Ashoka and Chandragupta Maurya. The Kalinga was independent empire who is present day in Odisha. And who was the ruler of Kalinga? Nandavaraj was the ruler of Kalinga during the time of Ashoka. So these are two contemporary powerful empire which was during his Mauryan Empire. So now Chandragupta Maurya was tried to capture Kalinga, but he was unable to capture Kalinga due to the military power and powerful. The Kalinga was very powerful. Bindusar also tried to capture Kalinga, but unable to capture Kalinga. Laterly, in 261 BC, around 261 BC, Ashoka attack on Kalinga. So the Kalinga War was fought around 261 BC between Ashoka and Nandaraj, the ruler of Kalinga. So it was a significant event in the life of Ashoka's and reason. Kalinga was an independent kingdom located in present-day Odisha, India. So as I told you, it was located in Odisha present day. Ashoka launched a military campaign against Kalinga with the intention of expanding his empire. In 261 BC, a Kalinga war was fought between Ashoka and Nandaraj. Ashoka launched a military campaign against Kalinga. Both are very powerful. The war was extremely brutal and resulted in a large number of casualties on both the sides. Some sources also said that there were around 2 lakh people who was died during the time of Kalinga war from both the sides. So it was a very brutal siege. Now, after when Ashoka deal with this scene and look at the war ground, there are lots of people who died in the whole ground. This was the turning point of Ashoka's life. Now Ashoka understands that war only create a lots of death. So after the Kalinga war, Ashoka returned Kalinga to the Nagaraj. He discontinued the policy of war that he will never fought any war in basically in the life, and he adopted Buddhism. So Kalinga War is also known as the turning point of Ashoka's life. The war was extremely brutal and resulted in large number of casualties on both sides. Ashoka victory in war came at a great cost as he was deeply affected by the suffering and devastating he witnessed. It is said that the site of aftermath of the war with its immense loss of life and destruction led Ashoka to embrace Buddhism and renounce violence. So he discontinued the policy of war. Kalinga War is often cited as a turning point in Ashoka's life. Important point. Which war was the turning point of Ashoka's life? The Kalinga War. Due to the large number of casualties on the war on the both sides, now Ashoka understand that this war only can destruct basically and lose lots of life. The Kalinga War is often as a turning point of Ashoka's life, promoting him to adopt a policy of non-violence known as Ahimsa to govern according to Buddhist principle. So with he impressed with Upgupta, and Upgupta was the political religious teacher of Ashoka. So these are the points related to Kalinga War. Now, sorry. Now, in this session, we also discussed the edicts of Ashoka. Before this, there are some points related to Ashoka. Ashoka adopted Buddhism after the impression of Gupta, and during the time of Ashoka, third Buddhism council was held. So we have already discussed this. First Buddhism council was held during the time of Ajatashatru in Rajgir. Second Buddhism council was held during the time of Kalasoka in in Vishali, and the third Buddhism council was held during the time of Ashoka in Patliputra. The third Buddhism council. Okay, we already discussed that we have to understand only 4 to 5 points related to Buddhism council. The first point is third Buddhism council was held in Patliputra because the Mauryan Empire capital was Patliputra. That time the king was Ashoka. So during the time of Ashoka, the third Buddhism council was held. Mogliputta Tissa was the president of third Buddhism council. Third Buddhism council was led by the Mogliputta Tissa, who was the president of third Buddhism council, and the time was around 251 BC. So after the 10 year of Kalinga War, Ashoka conducted third Buddhism council. What was the result of third Buddhism council? The result of third Buddhism council was that a new Pitak known as three Pitak, Abhidham Pitak was written, and all the three Pitak were compiled and known as three Pitakas. The third Pitak, Abhidham Pitak, Abhidhamma Pitak was written in this third Buddhism council, and Sut Vinay and Abhidhamma Pitak was merged, resulted as a three Pitak. Also, Ashoka sent his son and his daughter to China to spread Buddhism. Later, he started writing edicts, and there are total 33 edicts of Ashoka's we found. We have found Ashoka's 12 cave edicts, Ashoka's 14 major rock edicts, and Ashoka's 7 pillar edicts. So, major rock edicts, there are total 14 major rock edicts. Major pillar edicts, they are total 7 major pillar edicts, and cave inscriptions, they are total 12 cave inscriptions. So 12 plus 7 plus 14, so there are total 33 edicts of Ashoka's which are discovered. Survey said that Ashoka wrote around 84,000 stupas. Also, he wrote thousands of edicts, but we are able to discover only 33 edicts of Ashoka's. Clear? So first, we will have to understand major rock edicts. These were inscribed on rocks and boulders throughout Ashoka's empire and are among the most well-known of his edicts. They covered a wide range of topics, including Dhamma, which are related to religious tolerance and social welfare, and they are total 14 major rock edicts. Minor rock edicts, they are shorter inscriptions found on smaller rocks. Major means they are found in the major rocks, and minor means which are found in the smaller edicts, and often variation of summaries of major rock edicts. Major pillar edicts, which are erected by the Ashokas through his empire on the pillars, they also address various aspects and governance and moral conduct of Ashoka. There are also minor pillar edicts. There are total 7 major pillar edicts. Minor pillar edicts are on shorter inscription on smaller pillar. Last cave edicts. These are inscriptions found in caves, primarily in the Barban Hills, which are located in Bihar. Nagarjun Hills, which are also conveys Ashoka's policies and beliefs, and there are total 12 cave edicts. So we will have to discuss the 14 major edicts, the 7 pillar edicts, and the 12 cave edicts, in which we have to discuss only Four cave edicts. First, in which language Ashoka used to basically create any pillar edict or any edict? So Ashoka's edicts are primarily in Prakrit language with a vernacular language of ancient India. Vernacular language means Prakrit language with vernacular means the local language. Ashoka also used local language. The script used in Ashoka's is Brahmi, the Kharoshti, the Greek script, and Aramaic script. We find Brahmi script edict in India, the Kharoshti script edict in Pakistan, Greek and Aramaic are in Afghanistan and Greek. So Ashoka's wrote pillar edicts or established pillar, rock and cave edicts in India, Pakistan and Afghanistan. So in this session, we will discuss about the rock edict of Ashoka and the first rock edict, my major rock edict. The first rock edict explain about the commitment to promoting dhammas, basically the moral laws, and outlines an intention to ensure the welfare of his subject. The second rock edict explain about the medical system of Ashoka. It said that Ashokas have different medical system for male as well as animals as well as humans also. So it's explain about the medical system of Ashoka. The third rock edict, Ashoka declared his desire for happiness and well-being of all the subjects, regardless of their social and religious affiliation. The fourth rock edict, Ashoka, explain about the Ashoka's tour and visit to the various places of spiritual significance, including pilgrimage sites associated with Buddhism, like Lumbini, uh, Bodh Gaya, Kushinagar. So the fourth rock edict explain about the Ashoka's religious traveling. Fifth rock edict explain about that Ashoka's commitment to religious tolerance and his efforts to promoting understanding and respect between different faiths. Basically, fifth rock edict, Ashoka appointed 18 Dhamma Mahamantras to spread the Buddhism religion. So, four fifth rock edicts explain about the appointment of these Dhammas Mahamantras. The sixth rock edict addresses officials and subjects, instructing them to govern with comparison and fairness and to uphold the principle of Dhammas means. Sixth rock edict also explained that Ashoka ordered to his employees to visit the whole empire in every 5 years. Seventh rock edict explained the policies regarding with wildlife conservation, protection of forest and natural resources. The eighth explain about the administration and judicial system of the Ashoka, which work for justice and fairness for all. The ninth edict explain about the officials to accessible to the people and to listen to their grievance, emphasizing the importance of empathy and humility in the governance. Means ninth rock edict says that Raja and the officer of Raja should work always for public welfare only. The 10th rock edict, the policy of Dhamma Mahamantras, the officials who basically promote Ashoka's religion or Buddhism, appointment to promote moral values and welfare measuring among the populace. The 11th pillar edict explain about the religious tolerance and construction of religious movement and shelters for the various faiths. It's explain about the religious tolerance of the Ashoka, the construction of religious movements, monuments related to the Buddhism and shelter for various faiths. The 12th rock edict explain about the well-being of animals, particularly cattle. Also, it's explain about the human respect. So in the 12th edict, Ashoka basically gave a message to human respect. 13th rock edict explain about the Kalinga War. The Kalinga War, which we had previously discussed, was explained in the 13th Rock Edict. It also contained reflection on the virtues of Dhammas and his aspirations for the spiritual and moral uplift of his subject. And the last 14 Rock Edicts, in this edict, Ashoka showed his dedication toward his religion. And he said that nothing is beyond the relation, beyond the dharma or mahamantras, or beyond the religion, basically. He said that priority of every person should be his religion. So it's mark Ashoka's dedication to spread the principle of Dhamma beyond his empire through diplomatic mission and the dissemination of his edicts to the foreign land. So these are the major 14 rock edicts of Ashoka which are written on the large rocks. Next are the seventh pillar edict of Ashoka, which are mentioned in the form of pillar. First is Delhi Topra pillar edict. Delhi basically represents the present location of this pillar, and Topra represents the original location of this pillar. What does Delhi Topra pillar edict say? Delhi Topra pillar edict is basically original, is located in Haryana, the Topra village of Haryana, Yamunanagar. Later, Firoz Shah Tughlaq shifted this pillar to Delhi. So that's why this pillar is known as Delhi Topra pillar edict. Topra originally it was in Topra and present it is in Delhi, shifted by Firoz Shah Tughlaq. The edict emphasized Ashoka's dedication to Dhamma and his efforts to promote ethical conduct and social harmony among his subjects. It also mentioned Ashoka's policy of religious tolerance and his respect for all religious traditions. Next is Rumindi Pillar Edict. It is located in Lumbini, Nepal. The edict commemorates Ashoka's visit to the birthplace of Buddha and dedicated to the spreading the teaching of Buddha. Basically, it's also explained this pillar edict is in Nepal, Lumbini. Ashoka visited Lumbini when he became ruler. So after 10 years of becoming ruler, he visited Lumbini. Lumbini is the birthplace of Ashoka. It also highlights Ashoka's commitment to peace, non-violence, and welfare of his people. And Ashoka also declared Lumbini as a tax-free state. Next is Nigali Sagar Pillar Edict. This edict discusses Ashoka's policy of Dhamma Vidya and his belief in transformative power of moral law. It also mentioned Ashoka's efforts to establish Dhamma Mahamantras, Dhamma officials to promote ethical conduct and social welfare. Next is Rumindei Minor Pillar Edict, located near Rumindei Pillar Edict. This pillar edict is also located to the Rumindei Major Pillar Edict. This inscription emphasized Ashoka's reverence for the Buddha and his commitment to protecting the Sangha. Sangha means the Buddhic monastic community, the group who follow Buddhism. It also mentioned Ashoka's concern for the welfare of animals and his efforts to improve their treatment. Next was Nigali Sagar Minor Pillar Edict. The same located near to the Nigali Sagar Major Pillar Edict. It explains Dhamma Vidyas and his belief in efficiency of moral laws. It also mentioned Ashoka's desire for happiness and spiritual progress of his subject. Next is Sanchi Stupa, which is located in Santi, the Great Sanchi Stupa. This edict commemorates Ashoka's visit to the site and his dedication to the welfare of his people. It emphasized Ashoka's commitment to the moral conduct, the religious tolerance, and promoting the peace and harmony. Next is Sarnath Pillar Edict. Basically, our national emblem is obtained from the Sarnath pillar edict of Ashoka. The edict, also known as Lion Capital Edict, is perhaps the most famous of Ashoka's inscription. It's proclaimed Ashoka's conversion to Buddhism after witnessing the suffering caused by the conquest of Kalinga. So, Sarnath pillar edict is the only pillar edict to explain about the Ashoka's conversion into Buddhism after suffering from the cause of consequences of Kalinga. His commitment to following the Buddhist teaching. The Sarnath pillar edict is topped by the Loyan capital, which has become a symbol of India as a feature prominently on the Indian national emblem. We obtained Indian national emblem from the Sarnath. Next is Kushambi pillar edict, located in Koshambi, also known as Priyag Prasisti. Basically, Koshambi pillar edict was written by Ashoka in Koshambi. Ashoka mentioned a peace message in this Koshambi pillar edict. Later in Gupta period, the poet of Samudragupta, known as Hari Sen, wrote some information related to Samudragupta in same pillar edict, and from since there, this pillar edict is known as also Priyag Prasiddhi. So Prayag Prasiddhi and Kausambi pillar edict are the same pillar edict. First, it was known as Kushambi pillar edict when Ashoka write a peace message. Later, when Hari Sen wrote about Samudragupta in this pillar edict is known as Prayag Prasiddhi. In ancient day Uttar Pradesh, India, this inscription is engraved on the pillar and believed to be have erected by Ashoka during his reign. The Koshambi pillar presses is not fully preserved but is likely to contain messages similar to other Ashoka's inscriptions, like Dhamma's religious tolerance, social welfare, and ethical government. Historical significance. The Koshambi pillar Prayag precisely contribute to our understanding of Ashoka's administration and present reason. Like other Ashoka's inscription, Ashoka Koshambi pillar edict symbolized the emperor's commitment to moral government and his efforts to promote social harmony and well-being. Last is Allahabad pillar edict. The Koshambi pillar edict, the Priyag Prasiddhi pillar edict is also known as Allahabad pillar edict. First, it was Ashoka's Koshambi pillar edict. Later, Samudragupta poet Hari Sen wrote many information about Samudragupta, then known as Priyag Prasiddhi. Later, the ruler of India, Akbar, shifted this pillar edict to his Allahabad fort. Since there, it is known as Allahabad pillar edict. So first it is Priyag Prasiddhi, later it is first is Koshambi, later it is Priyag Prasiddhi, and now it is Allahabad pillar edict when Akbar shifted this to Allahabad. The inscription is engraved on a plain board discovered near the confluence of the Ganga and Yamuna River in Allahabad. Contained message from Ashoka about his religion and moral belief, including the commitment of Dhammas, religious tolerance, and social welfare. It also mentioned the completion of the Third Buddhism Council during his reign. The Allahabad pillar edict explain about the Third Buddhism Council during the time of Ashoka. What are the historical significance of Allahabad pillar edict? The Allahabad pillar edict is considered one of the key inscriptions of Ashoka's reign. It provides his policies and spreading of Buddha religion during the Mauryan period. It also confirmed the location of Third Buddhism Council. Third Buddhism Council was conducted in Patliputra, and this information we get through the Allahabad pillar edict. Clear? It also promotes harmony, peace, and welfare of his subjects. So these are the major pillar edicts of Ashoka. Now there are 4 cave edicts of Ashoka, which are found in Parpar Hills of Bihar. The name of pillar edicts are cave edicts Sudama, Chopal, Vishwa Jhopadi, and Kutch. Basically, Ashoka wrote 45 cave edicts, 12 cave edicts, but we found 4 cave edicts. These caves are found in Parapar Hills of Bihar, and the name of these caves are Sudama, Chopal, Vishwa Jhopadi, and Kutch. And these caves explain about the Ajivika Saptaka. Clear? So I hope you understand this session. Thank you.